welcome back to another episode. I'm so excited for this week's topic. Actually switched up a little bit and I did an interview with my dear brother. We sat down, we got honest, we got open about my athletic career and my journey with an eating disorder alongside it and kind of how that affected my treatment. I think it's gonna be amazing. I really enjoyed doing it with him. I hope you guys like it. And while I have you here, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, connect me on socials. And I think that's it. So if you guys are ready, I hope you are. Let's get into this interview. Enjoy. All right, so this is Dane, my brother. Say hi, Dane.
Howdy.
And we're gonna get into this interview.
So let's start by talking about your athletic experience a little bit and why you decided to run in college and how you picked UCSD.
Great questions, Dane. It's like I thought of them myself.
Just like that.
So I originally wanted to play soccer in college because that was the sport I loved. And then I started
AYSO is hard to shake off.
We love AYSO.
We love AYSO.
But then I started to fall in love with running in about my junior year of high school, and that's what I decided to do in college. And my career started to pick up and go really well towards end of junior cross season and then senior year. And then I was like, hey, I want to run. And then I originally wasn't going to go to UCSD, but a good old mom
made you apply.
Made me apply because she's like, it's D2 school, you could run there. And I was like, oh, fine. So I applied, got in. I actually talked to the coach after I got in because I wasn't going to go there. So I was like, why mess with it? Then I got in contact with him, visited the school over spring break. Loved what he was saying about the team. Then I ultimately decided to go to UCSD. I wanted a bigger school experience. I decided I didn't want small school, like I was gonna go to Chapman, which I'm at now for my master's program.
So you eventually ended up at Chapman.
Eventually I went to Chapman. Then I was like, UCSD seems like it has everything I want. And then I was like, hey, let's go. I'll run there and it's gonna be great.
What was it like being a student athlete at such an academically intense school like a UC?
It was hard. It was definitely challenging. I think the perks of a UC and doing a fall sport at a UC is that you get basically almost a whole month and a half of training and races before you even start school. And once school starts, that's really hard because like for me, I was used to not having school.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I have school and it was really, really difficult. Luckily, I got my time management skills honed in high school. I was able to manage everything pretty well. It was still hard to manage school and running.
Plus, just going into college with those upperclassmen to show you the ropes, the benefits can't be overstated.
It was really nice, especially like
getting that month and a half to get accustomed to school.
Yeah, I got used to the campus, which is awesome because it's huge.
It is so big.
So big,
is
so
ridiculous.
It's so confusing. So you got that, you had a group of friends, you knew where your classes were for the most part, and you just kind of got that college campus feel. You felt like you were already experienced going into it.
So what were some of your favorite moments of being an athlete at UCSD?
There's quite a few of like being on the cross team. We went to Mammoth for 10 days after our eval week / tryout week. That was always one of my favorites. You went to the mountains, you were just kind of disconnected from everything. You were just with the team. I mean, the runs were really hard. Being at altitude was...
Yeah, it's 7,000 feet.
It was very difficult. And it was... Hills. That was fun. It was still like a great experience and learning how to push yourself in the altitude and put yourself out there as like a newbie runner and then as a returning runner. It was always like a really great experience. Always,
definitely.
Always one of my faves. And then, I don't know, I guess on campus it was nice to just like be in the athletic community. That was one of my main draws, was like how tight-knit UCSD's athletic community is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's really nice to like be a part of that, especially at a big school, to like have the 600 athletes or whatever. We had the Triton Athletic Council, TAC, and they put on events, and you would go to sports games and you would try to get different points, and there was different fundraisers throughout the year. And that was always really fun to like connect with the athletes. And then at the end of school, you had an athlete formal, so it was fun to like, everybody was done with their sports at that time, so it was just like a really fun experience to be with athletes all dressed up. It was fun to be part of that.
All right.
Can't forget a track prom.
Ooh, prom!
Prom! That was so fun. It's at the end of every track season, and it was just like, you went to the track, took pictures, got dressed up, and it was so fun.
Let's talk perks. Were there any perks of being a student athlete?
Oh yeah, there was. If you were injured, you went down to the ATR, which is the athletic training room. That was, okay, it sucked to be injured, and it was nice to like meet other athletes. You just like talk, because a lot of time you're just sitting there, getting worked on. So it was nice to like meet different athletes there. Then you had the weight room. Once it was like finally done, I was fortunate enough, my freshman year, the weight room was complete. It's probably one of the best.
I assume it's better than the student gym at REMAC.
It's a bit better than REMAC. No shade to REMAC. I worked there for 2.5 years. But getting access to the trainers there, which are fantastic. The weights were super nice.
How long did you have to wait for a bench press or a squat rack?
Never.
Never?
I know.
I'd be an athlete just for that. Do you know how long I would just sit there and stare at the dude at the squat rack for an hour and a half? Get off, man.
Yeah, no, we never had that. We had the set plan, so you never had to figure out what workout you wanted to do.
Oh, that's so nice.
You would go in, for us, we had weights after hard practice most of the time, so you were pretty fatigued from that, and like doing weights was pretty difficult. It was still really nice. My favorite part of that was getting chocolate milk after.
Ooh, chocolate milk.
Always.
Best post-workout.
So nice. It was wonderful. I miss that. We got a lot of free gear.
Ooh.
Yep. Got that. That was always really fun. You got free trips. You got to travel the country. There was some great perks to it.
Being a little more, move to a little more serious of a topic. So you're obviously not on the UCSD track team anymore, even before you graduated.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like transitioning off the team, and why did you leave?
There is a lot of reasons. My junior cross year, I kind of lost motivation for the sport. I don't really know what happened. I just wasn't really feeling it anymore. I wasn't performing very well. I didn't like going to practice as much as I used to. It was really hard, and even going into the season, going to Mammoth was probably my most challenging of years. And throughout the season, I kind of struggled to catch my momentum like I had previously done. I wasn't hitting any of the times I wanted to be hitting. And towards the end of the season, I was like, do I want to continue with this? And is this something I want to push myself through? Is it worth it enough? And being a student athlete my whole life, I also wanted to get a taste of the non-athlete life. And with that also comes not priority registration. That's another perk. You get priority registration, which is fantastic. But I think, to me, I had a list of cons, and the cons outweighed the pros. And so at the end of season, at the postseason meetings, I was like, told my grievances to my coach. I ultimately said I didn't want to continue to be on the team and that I wanted to leave. It was definitely a difficult decision, and sometimes I regretted it. Mostly I was proud of what I did and for trying something new.
So one day you're a student athlete, the next day you aren't. Was that transition hard?
It was definitely very hard. At first I was like, yes, no practice. And I didn't have to do like the preseason training. That was, I guess, nice. I remember going into my class, because I think it was a Wednesday, and then I went to class right after my meeting, and I was very upset. I think I cried in class. Woo! But
everyone cries in class in college.
Does. It's not rare. But it was difficult, and telling my team later that day was really hard. I got so much support and love, and I'm just really proud of the team that I had. Walking around campus, not being an athlete was hard. And it was hard to find an identity after leaving the team. That was probably my biggest struggle. And that was something that I don't think I ever fully did.
One thing that was part of your identity was your eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
How did your relationship with that change after leaving the cross and track teams?
It got stronger. It was something that I knew I could control, something that I knew would help me through all my hard times. It was a crutch. It was, looking back on it, part of the reason I wanted to leave was because I felt like I couldn't give my eating disorder its full attention when I was on the team. There was a lot more oversight and just more eating events that, I don't know, I kind of wanted to be a part of. And then once I left, I was scared to give that up as well as running. So I ultimately strengthened my relationship with that and kind of isolated myself from everything else. I know leaving the team for anybody is really difficult because a lot of people are like, I'm gonna lose my athletic body. Like, I don't wanna get fat. I don't wanna be that person who lets myself go. And that really scared me. So I still continued to run a lot because I didn't know what else to do, and I ate less and less.
So you did eventually seek treatment for your eating disorder. And after you did that, how did your relationship with running change?
Well, when you enter treatment, you are not allowed to engage in any type of exercise, mostly because that's like a very big behavior. For me, I didn't think it was. I thought I was an athlete. I like ran a ton of miles and I was like, this is so normal. Obviously, when I got to treatment, I was like, oh, I guess it was a little disordered. It was a little bit excessive. They really make you think about what's important to you when you get into treatment. What are your motivations behind your sport, moving? I was fortunate enough to be a part of the athlete group there, which was fantastic. And they really helped you understand what it'd be like to go back to your sport after treatment. And that was, at first when I got there and they're like, you're not allowed to do any exercise, I was like, screw this, I hate this. It was a really nice break to like be able to think about my motivations and reframe my mindset of I want to move because I want to move. I don't want to move because I want to change my body to look a certain way.
What was it like suddenly not being able to work out? It
was hard. It's so hard, especially when that's a big behavior of yours. You're in an anxiety-provoking environment with you're eating more than probably you have in years, your entire life. That was really hard, and you're sitting all the time, and I was like, this is so terrible. Like, what are they making us do? And they know what they're doing. It's a full treatment center, but it's definitely difficult to not have the crutch of your eating disorder. It's difficult to not have the crutch of your running or your sport or your exercise. So it's just like, who the heck am I? It's like an identity crisis.
Definitely. Were you able to do anything physical in treatment?
So it depends. I was fortunate enough to be granted the permission to engage in movement again. It took me, I think, 8 to 10 weeks.
It was a while before you could even walk.
Yeah, even walking. You weren't allowed to walk. You were not allowed to do anything. Yeah, I eventually was, and it started out very slow. They really, really easy you into it because they don't want you to engage in behaviors again. So for me, I was allowed to walk, I think 2 to 3 times a week. And then a few weeks later, I was able to do a walk jog twice a week and then do something else the 3rd, 4th time a week. Then finally, a couple weeks after that, I was able to do a full, complete run. And so I was like able to ease into it. I was in a movement process group so that you were able to process your movement, motivations behind it. So it's a lot of work getting back into movement again.
And they were very regimented of you had 30 minutes you could walk twice a week.
Yep. Yeah,
it was hard. And you were not allowed to exceed that.
Yeah, and I fell into a pattern of rigidity, kind of backfired. Oh my gosh, like I did 40 minutes of walking. I was only allowed to do 30 minutes. Like I am a failure. So you really had to be open about that and talk about that to your treatment team, and so that they could help you kind of be compassionate towards going over your movement times and reworking how you're going to move later on in the week.
So you mentioned earlier you had twin crutches of your running and your eating disorder, and those were taken away from you. Did you ever feel like you were losing yourself?
I did. Sometimes. Also, I was doing a lot of work on myself, and I was really proud of the work that I was doing. And at times it was really hard to even see anybody running because it kind of like was a punch in the gut to me of, oh my gosh, they get to run. I don't get to run. I don't think I ever went back to any of the running spots that I used to go to because it was very difficult for me to look at those. And one, it reminded me of the hard runs I used to put myself through, and I didn't want to go back there. I wasn't ready. It was hard. That running identity was a part of me. I always thought I was a runner, and I assumed people associated me with running. They associated me with healthy eating. They associated me with running. They associated me with being a small person. And losing that and losing my eating disorder, I was like, will people love me? Like, will they see me the same? Ultimately, the answer was yes, they did. They told me I was happier. They told me I was enjoying life more than I was. But for a while, I was like, I'm losing myself. I don't know who I am.
How is your relationship with running now?
It's good. I don't run that much, maybe 2-3 times a week. I don't want to. I'm actually doing the opposite of what most people want to do. They were like, I want to run more. I'm like, I want to run less.
I think most people want to run less. The weirdos that enjoy running.
Sorry, I surround myself with runners. Oi. I really have to be careful and curious with motivations behind running and movement, and I never do a run full out. I always walk. I stop, and it's so much more enjoyable, and like giving myself permission to do that is liberating because I never did that. I don't force myself to wake up early and run. If I don't feel like running in the morning, I won't. Maybe I'll do it later in the day. It's a lot better. It's a lot healthier of a relationship. I couldn't have done that if I continued to run throughout program. There's no way.
Is there any other types of movement or physicality you enjoy nowadays?
Physicality, yeah. It's my body, physical activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to walk. I used to hate walking. I thought it was stupid. I was like, who wants to walk when you can run? I like it now. Sometimes I'll do workout videos on YouTube.
Fitness Blender shout out.
Fitness Blender, we love. I played Ultimate Frisbee the other week, and that was so fun.
Fun?
Yeah. Once things open up again, I'd love to join like a soccer league.
Maybe go hiking?
Go hiking. We did go hiking. My one and only camping trip. Ooh, that's too soon. That's fun. Like, I'm trying to give myself permission to count things that I used to not believe were movement as movement. That's a very difficult transition. I think even people who aren't athletes, who aren't disordered eaters, still count things as better movement and worse movement. And I think I have a leg up on them of like giving myself permission to see moving my body in any way as movement.
Do you still identify as an athlete now?
Sometimes. Sometimes it's really hard because I still associate my athletic identity with my eating disorder. It did jumpstart my eating disorder. I wanted to look like a runner. Now I don't participate in any type of sport. I think for me, my identity lies in other things. As far as an athlete, I think what I consider myself now is a retired athlete who had the amazing opportunity to be a collegiate athlete and got that experience and got to meet amazing people, and now I just have a different chapter in my life and different priorities.
Where would you say that your values lie now, today?
I think I put a lot of my values in strengthening my relationships. I kind of let my relationships fall to the wayside in my eating disorder. I am strengthening those, and that's been hard and amazing. I put my value and identity in school. I'm really pushing myself to apply to internships and go after things that I never would have before. Being a better daughter, being a better friend, being a cook. being a curious movementer. Finding
Yeah, that's one way to phrase that.
Putting my identity in growing this YouTube channel and just kind of being a mentor to people who reach out to me. And I think those are my new values.
If you had to pick one thing that you were doing to make those values a reality, what would you say that one thing is?
Really reflecting on what you want your life to look like. Do you want to have all your energy going into your sport? Or do you want to spread yourself out and put your energy into sport and also school and also your relationships and also hobbies? Like, we did a lot of work on that, and I think just valuing what you learn as an athlete and putting that into other aspects of your life, so then that way your eggs aren't all in one basket, they're kind of spread throughout, and I think that makes you a more whole round person. I know we worked on that a lot on the cross team, and I think it's valuable for everybody because it will come to a day when you're no longer an athlete, and that's really hard. So if you do work kind of throughout college or after college and you're like, what do I want to do with my life? Doing just a little bit of that work, finding values, going after what you want to do is life-changing.
My final question for you is, what would be your piece of advice to other athletes who are struggling with their identities post-sport?
Giving yourself time to grieve that time in your life, because it is a big transition and it's a new chapter in your life. So reflecting on the good times, grieving that loss, and then moving forward and going to, parties and getting that college experience and trying different forms of movement and really working on your relationships, finding new hobbies to be a part of. Maybe you want to share your journey as an athlete. Put yourself out there in different ways that you wouldn't ever have had time to do if you were a student athlete.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, Karina.
Oh, what? Thank you for joining me.
Well,
it's really hot.
It's so hot. The fireplace is so uncomfortable.
It's toasty. Do you want to say hi to our doggies? Doggies!
Doggies! Vivian!
Zoe!
Come here, Gilbert. Zoe.
Say hi, Zoe. Oh, Zoe.
Oh, she doesn't like this.
Vivian. Not interested.
Vivian.
Come here, Vivian. Come here. Sit. Sit. Down. No, paw. No, sit. Paw. Say hi to the camera.
Vivian. Vivian. Vivian.
Say hi.
Say hi. Good boy.
Sit. Sit. Hi.
Oh, yeah, puppy.
Also, shout out to my sister for doing my hair.